Welcome back to another thrilling edition of This Week on Blu-ray, DVD, and On Demand. I'm your host, Thor Dykow. Join me, won't you? Our first movie, a comedy of epic proportions, a sequel. Yes, they follow up to Neighbors. Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. You got Zac Efron, Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, and Chloe Grace Moretz leading the way with the cast. Now, you know what? Comedy sequels are tough to pull off, but this one actually did a good job of furthering the story and improving upon the subject matter. Basically, what happens is Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne have their second baby on the way. They want to make their final move into adulthood and move to the suburbs. They're trying to sell their home, but you know what happens? A rogue sorority moves next door, basically making it difficult to sell the house, let's put it that way. And they have to team up with their charismatic ex-neighbor, now secret weapon Teddy, played by Zac Efron. And there you see Chloe and her troop of girls who set up the rogue sorority. So a lot of interesting gender comedy here and role reversals when it comes to female empowerment and things like that. So I like that this film actually adopted that kind of approach to the comedy. So it took it in a new direction. Some of the gags were predictable and a bit of a recycled nature from the first one, especially with the physical stuff like that, or the airbag humor. That being said, though, it really coasts off the charms of Rogen, Byrne, and Efron, who've crafted kind of nice little camaraderie between the trio. And then you've got Chloe Grace Moretz as well as a nice addition, and a couple of great surprises as well with the cast. You've got deleted scenes, a gag reel, and the Linorama on the Blu-ray, and a couple of features, including one where the director and the cast sit down and talking about the things they wanted to avoid about making a comedy sequel. So there you go. Get it now on Blu-ray, DVD, and on demand. Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. All right, we'll talk drama now, and this is a true story, well, based on one anyway. Matthew McConaughey leading the way, Free State of Jones. This didn't do so much at the box office, but honestly, I think this film is worth a look. He plays a disillusioned Confederate Army deserter who goes back to his home state of Mississippi and leads a militia of fellow deserters, runaway slaves, and women in an uprising against the local corrupt Confederate government. So a bit of a twist on the Civil War story. And I have to say, McConaughey was sensational in this role. I really enjoyed it. The movie got a little bit bogged down with its storytelling because they also have a parallel story of a trial which happens decades later. So it tried to mirror some of the civil rights issues that were going on. I would have preferred they just stuck with this setting in this era, because the other storyline, it kind of bogs things down a little bit, as I say, but it's gorgeously shot, very handsome production, and some confident direction here from Gary Ross. So I really enjoyed this one. It may meander a little bit, but the acting was all solid, and it's a fascinating story at its core. All right, something for the young ones. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows. And this is the heroes in a half shell back for more adventures, shall we say. Joining them as well is Casey Jones, played by Arrow's Stephen Amell. And supervillain Shredder escapes, joins forces with Bebop and Rocksteady. And if you grew up with the Turtles like I did, you're familiar with those characters. They unleash a diabolical plan to take over the world, but then they find themselves facing an even greater threat. Yes, the notorious Krang. You know what I will say? These movies are a little bit silly and dumb, but they look great, and they're a lot of fun. So there you go. If you grew up on the Turtles like I did, you can kind of appreciate them. The rest of us may be wondering what the heck's going on. But Megan Fox, Will Arnett, Laura Linney, Stephen Amell, and Tyler Perry round out the live-action cast. And the guys that play the Turtles, I think, are tremendous in their mocap roles. You got Bebop and Rocksteady, who look great on screen. Yes, it's very dumb and juvenile, but still, the Turtles were all about just kicking butt and having fun, and that movie does that in spades. Let's move on now to the TV world. Oh my, we're finally saying goodbye to Alicia Flockhart. Yes, The Good Wife, the final season, the 7th season. And this time around, she meets a new confidant. She explores personal boundaries with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Here's a stunning confession from Eli, and supports her husband Peter, played by Chris Noth, in his run for the White House and a possible return to the big house. Yes, it all comes to a final end, and I really enjoyed the 7 seasons, and this one is no exception. A lot of twists and turns, so get that now. And Modern Family is back with the 7th season as well, winner of 5 Emmy Awards. Some of the highlights in this season include Phil adopting a trio of orphan ducklings, Cam and Mitchell face financial hurdles and wild frat boys, Jay and Gloria farm out Joe's preschool education, Manny gets in on the dating game, and will the big question finally be answered? Are Haley and Andy destined to be together? Find out. The Clan is back, and I always love this one, still going very strong after 7 seasons. Get the complete one right now on DVD. And we'll leave you with this, the 30th anniversary edition of Labyrinth. Jim Henson and David Bowie coming together. A new 4K restoration. You also get some Amazing collectibles here, a 24-page digibook package that includes rare photos and behind the scenes. In addition, there's a limited edition gift set with a unique mirror box package, sort of inspired by the iconic final scene in the film. But man, this is fantasy at its best. And you've got all the practical effects, fresh-faced young Jennifer Connelly there. And of course, it's the story of a young girl who must save her little brother from the Goblin King, played amazingly and iconically by the late, great David Bowie. I mean, look at this stuff. This was also written by Terry Jones of Monty Python. He did the screenplay. The film was produced by George Lucas. Very iconic if you grew up in that 80s fantasy era with the Dark Crystal and these kind of movies. So there you go. Amazing 4K restoration, the 30th anniversary of Labyrinth. Get it now. There you go, people. It's a mixed bag this week. I am Thor Diakow. You can catch me on Twitter at Thor Diakow, and we'll see you next week right here on breakfasttelevision.ca.